there. So welcome back to the Milk&2sugars podcast. This week we've got our guest none other than Joyal Masih. He's a highly experienced gentleman with a dab hand behind the lens, but also gets stuck into property too, having completed developments in the past. So welcome, Joel. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So yeah, great to be here, guys. Part of your Milk&2sugars podcast, so it's great. My name's Joel. I'm from Bristol. And my
stuff is just it sounds like a blind date advert. Have you ever seen blind date?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joel from Bristol. I'm 35. Sorry, mate.
That's fine. So
that's just me. That's just me. Yeah, that's just me.
Cut that out.
Maybe don't cut it out. It sounds like a weirdo.
Largely in terms of my property journey, kind of started about 17, 18 years ago when I bought my first buy-to-let property. I kind of just bought that property with a view of buying it as something for my children to have in the future. I thought, it was getting even hard then, in terms of bringing, children being able to buy properties. I thought in the future, so I thought I'd just buy that for them. And at the back of it, as long as it didn't make me a loss, I was quite happy having that property, thinking that the property will just go up in value over the years and I'll be able to do something with it. So it kind of just ran in the background while I did my corporate job. So, I did a corporate job for sort of 39 years, really.
And what did that involve?
Well, I was a store manager for Sainsbury's.
Okay.
But at the age of 55, I was in a fortunate position to be able to take retirement. So I did that. And then I kind of sort of was restless, really, having retired. And I knew I wanted to do something else, but didn't quite know what I wanted to do.
Just before jumping in, that goes back to obviously our other two episodes, isn't it? Obviously with Ricky saying he sold his carpet business and obviously progressed into property, and he was just restless. He had to do something. Obviously Nick's in that same position as well. So yeah, Kevin, definitely why that ties in.
I think the problem is, you can be I was retired but not expired, and I knew I had still a lot left inside me in terms of wanting to do more. So I think almost it took me sort of 6-7 months, and I was thinking, I need more from my life than just I can't just retire now. And in the background, I've always done photography as well. So I started doing more of photography, but I knew photography wasn't going to make me rich. And I think sometimes when you haven't got a purpose in life, in so much that if I wanted to, I didn't have to work either, actually, because I'd retired and I could live off my pension. But I knew I wanted to do more. So I started listening to Grant Cardone, which most people will have heard of, in the world of podcasts and in the world of property and so forth like that. So I started listening to Grant, and I really got a buzz from Grant. And I then just took a leap of faith and took myself off by myself to Miami to go to one of Grant's shows. This was in Miami, 40,000 people in the stadium there. And, the first day Grant sort of, parachutes out the air, lands in the stadium, and this went on for 3 days. And it was an unbelievable event for 3 days. If anybody ever wants to go to it, you should do, because you'll come back really, really fired up. And I came back fired up from that. And then I thought, I want to do something with property. So I had this 3-bedroom property and I converted it into a 6-bedroom HMO. And that was kind of my first project. So whilst I've been a landlord for 17 years, I'm fairly new to the property world. But I think what's helped me get through is the years and years of experience of having worked in business. And I think one of the things you've got to understand is that when you're working in any game, whether it's property or whatever, being able to understand people, work with people is key and pretty critical. And also having a business head as well, in terms of understanding the numbers and knowing your numbers, in terms of, if you do any projects or so forth, that's kind of key and critical. So that kind of helped me through the first project. And when I worked for Sainsbury's, there was many a times when, the stores would have refits,
There's other stores out there, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, there's, multi-million-pound refits, handle sort of those. So, that kind of does help you in some way, shape or format. And then I went to the property show, the 10X property show in London. And there, didn't know quite what to expect, but I knew Grant was there. And that was my sort of, magnet for wanting to go to that particular show. So I went along, and then I met people from Progressive there, and decided to do some property training. So met a guy called Kevin McDonald. Most of you probably would have heard of him. did Kevin's No Money Down course. Whilst I didn't implement any of the No Money Down strategies, but I learned a lot from Kevin as a mentor. So, you know, a few years ago, I didn't even know what a HMO was, right, okay? So having been on Kevin's course, I decided to do HMO. And then also Kevin talked to me about SAS pensions. Of course, I got a pension from Sainsbury's. It was a good pension. It was a defined benefit final salary pension. And when I found out about SAS, and for those people that don't know what it is, I suggest probably
I was just going to say, do you want to elaborate on what SAS means?
I will do briefly, and I can't cover it off all of it.
That's
but I can talk
understandable.
about it from a property point of view, how it can help you with your portfolio and the benefits of it. So a SAS pension is a small self-administered scheme. It can have up to 11 people in it, in that particular scheme. But I mean, obviously, go onto YouTube, have a look at really what all the benefits are. But for me, what the main benefit was, there was times when we went to Brexit, and my personal pension, I wasn't happy with the way it was performing sometimes. So it went up and it went down, and when it loses money, I don't like losing money. Nobody likes losing money. So I wasn't happy. I wasn't in control of what was going on with my pension. So I decided with SAS, I could control it. Okay, I'd be the trustee of my own pension. So what it allows you to do is use your pension. And you put it into a SAS pot, and then you can use it for property. So you can use it for commercial properties. You can use it for you can even use it for crypto if you wanted to, right? There's lots of ways you can use it to grow your pension pot. But one of the things it enabled me to do was use 50% of it for loan backs to my own company, earn interest on the money that I borrowed to my company, and it goes back into my SAS pot, and enabled me to accelerate my journey in terms of property. And then with the other half of the money, you can actually lend it out to the people. So once you do that, you're running another multiple stream of income, because that's then earning you interest as well. So that's how I've used that particular SAS pension to help me with that. So again, I bought another bungalow with the SAS money, some of my own money as well. So I've pretty much used my pension to accelerate my journey, because as with all property journeys, money can be can be short, or you haven't got enough of it to do your projects with. But that has massively helped me. And I think I'll just touch on the education piece as well. The education was key and critical for me, to know that there was somebody there that I could turn to should I want to turn to. And I would encourage people to have a look at the education, because it's like anything else. You're an electrician, you're a builder. You guys didn't wake up one morning and think, I know my trade. It took years of qualifications.
Still does.
And every day's a day at the school, isn't it? So, but you've invested time, you invested money getting that education. And property education is exactly the same. You don't one day wake up and think, today I'm a property guru. You can go out and do it. You need people out there showing you, holding your hand through things. Otherwise, it can be very, very expensive mistakes you can make. So that's largely my background. One thing I've always done is worked hard, and I think property is no different. It's not about not being able to work hard in what you do now. You still got to work hard in terms of what you do even now. I sometimes think to myself, why we're doing it. And I think people have different whys as to why you're doing it. And I think different stages in your life, you'll have a different why. Okay, so I think when you're young, the first thing you want to do is buy a house. You want to look after your wife, your kids, and they grow up. For me, my wife and my kids, my kids are grown up. So, for me, my why now is about, helping my children. So, I've let my daughter go on to progressive courses, and she's doing, different bits around property now. So she does deal sourcing. So I'm happy that I've been able to help them. So I think in different stages of your life, your why becomes kind of very different in terms of what you're doing. So for me, it's that part about being able to help other people now as well. So yeah.
Interesting.
Losing a bit of a days then.
Why on earth do I have to keep off? you and me are supposed to be like Pinky and Perkin. We can't answer that question
what you
either.
was
But
looking at,
I'm
so
talking to
it's
the
fine.
microphone this time.
Yeah, okay.
You seem perplexed. I thought you were going to be the.
No, it looked like you was going to say something, and then you was like,
No, I'm just looking at myself in the camera. But apart from that,
no, I'm interested. So the cost implications on some of the courses that you've. So for people not have been on any courses, what sort of cost implications are involved in some of the courses? that you've
I think
taken?
if I generally I put a generalisation on the courses. If you go to a 3-day course, you're generally going to be speaking maybe £2,500 plus that. Okay.
is how much the course is?
Yeah. So that's going to give you 3 days of a particular course or 4 days of a
Rick's
particular
eyebrow
course.
size.
Okay. You know, but that's almost. I always tell you to people, okay, that it's like having a car without the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to give you 3 days of a course at about that particular price. Okay, then you'll get something like the mastermind, which means that somebody's holding your hand for the next 6 months. Okay, and then that's generally speaking.
Sorry, is that included in that cost, or is that an
No,
extra?
that's an extra cost.
Right, okay.
So you do the initial course, and then you're talking another course for about 5,000.
Yeah.
Right, you know, can't remember if it's with the VAT or without the VAT. But that mentorship for the next 6 months is useful as well, because you know it keeps you on track as well. And sometimes you know you do get people that course junkies. You know, they'll spend a lot of money on courses and do nothing. And what I always say to people is take massive action. Take massive action, because if you do not take action, okay, going to the courses is not going to help and support you. It's not going to help and support you. So you've got to take action in terms of what you do. Yeah.
You've surprised me there, because we've had a debate before on Clubhouse where we'd heard of people spending in excess of 30k on courses, which just seemed complete madness. When that's like a deposit for a property, and the way that it was packaged was, you know, like if you think education's expensive, then try making mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, I've found it really hard to make a 30-40 grand mistake on a standard buy-to-let, but now you've mentioned that they're like 2.5 grand. That to me, as someone that's a new investor, is actually an affordable avenue of training, whereas I've been quite sceptical of training courses before. I've never done any sort of property training, and I'm not set dead against it, because you can always learn something new, different strategies. Like you said before, we didn't know what a HMO was. I didn't know what a HMO was until I was working with investors as an electrician, and then seeing, you know, someone turn a 3-bedroom semi into a 6-bedroom house and being like, wow, you're getting how much a month per room? This is amazing. So if I could have learned that years ago, then it would have been massively beneficial for me. I've just lost my fucking train of thought. I don't know what I was. I ain't it massively.
Doing well, yeah, as well.
Courses.
Yeah.
Horses for courses.
No, there's something else. Oh yeah. So I haven't done any courses myself, but what I did do was I went on like a breakfast property meet where we were typically we were like procrastinators, me and my wife. We talked about it for years and years, and we took no action. So like you mentioned earlier on about someone being a course junkie and actually doing nothing. People want to be told an easier way of doing something, and I think we were probably part of that crowd as well, where we wanted to skip a certain part and get straight to being like a landlord or an investor. And we went to this course, and there was an upsell on there, which we, you know, they're not going to put it on for free. So we started off at the beginning of the day, and that course, there was a poignant piece of information that we took from that. And at the end of it, he just, you know, give us a scenario about people that you speak to. And I've had this many times with family and friends and peers that I speak to. And they'll speak about a deal that is too good to be true. They've seen this old house that needs renovating that can add, you know, 50, 60 grand's worth of additional value on top of it by just moving the bathroom or doing so. And in theory, you speak to them and it's like, that's an amazing deal. And then 12 months later, you ask them how you got on with that project and nothing materialised, and it was never a good time. They just had a kid, they just lost a job. You know, COVID, Brexit, there's always these negatives that they put in place. And for me, this bloke just point blank just said to everybody, you can either be a property investor or you can be someone that talks about property. And then that just hit home with me, and I just thought, I don't want to be that person that just chats shit constantly about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, because I come across them people daily within my job, in everything. Instagram, people starting off, and they put so many boundaries in place, and I just think you failed from the offset. So it is good to probably look at different types of education. With anything, do your due diligence on who's delivering the courses, get feedback. But yeah, like you mentioned, mate, it's a good piece of advice.
I think. Sorry, thank you. I definitely think. I mean, in human behaviour, it's always easy to go down the lazy route. We're all human. That's what we're sort of built to do. We're only supposed to build the sort of simple, eligible tasks, which do breathe, between view, etc. Hear, listen, taste. But I think it's, for me, my sort of upbringing, etc., is a firm belief what you were just saying about trained or to be trained. It's almost as you're either a shepherd or you're a sheep. I'm a firm believer I'm a shepherd. Maybe that's probably my life experience, but I'm not saying there's anything wrong being a sheep. I'm not saying that at all, but I think it depends on any kind of person, any human being, what the avenue you want to go down in life. If you want to settle and be comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's people, especially in this new podcast series we've done with our great guests we've had, we're all accustomed to looking like we're all shepherds, aren't we? And we're all control of our own destiny. And I think that's the most important thing in when people do training programs. It's whether people want to take call to action, do something about it, or you don't. And I'm not saying that's the right thing or wrong thing at all. I'm the least person to have an opinion about whether someone thinks they're doing something right or wrong. But I think that's definitely an important thing, whether you're in control of what you want to do with your life. It's one, as I've heard in other sort of podcasts before, it's your book. You're in control of your chapters and how your book finishes and the end starts. So, definitely without that.
Yeah, I think the important thing about education is that they're only there to give you the tools in order to do a job, and it's down to you. You need to sort of emphasise you as an individual needs to take the action on the education that's been put in front of you. If you're going to turn that into becoming a successful property entrepreneur, there are loads of people out there that are. We've met them on Clubhouse, courses every week, up and down the countries, networking, and.
Could you use the word scammer?
Scammer? What?
Some people do courses not in the right light.
Yeah, obviously, without going into that, but I'm talking about people that are relatively new into property and they're just looking for the answer that's not going to be there.
That's what I'm saying. Are they susceptible of being lured in by these people?
They're not.
Highly extremely experienced.
Some people don't need to be lured in. Some people are just naturally will do courses one after another. We could set up a course tomorrow, and I guarantee you, I could go onto Clubhouse and find someone that would take that course. Because they're just putting the inevitable in front of them. They just want boundaries. So it's better for somebody to have a goal. And you say you're starting here, and say, for example, a property investor's the end of the road. They'll put as many barriers in the way to stop them actually doing any work as possible. So some people are just naturally adapted to just doing multiple courses, whereas some people will probably do one. They might do three. Joel said you've done a few, and then you'll do a top up and learn something to further create your skill set. So if you don't know something about serviced accommodation, then go and do a course on serviced accommodation. If you're not clued up on HMOs, then go and do a course for that and add that to your arsenal of skills as a seasoned investor.
I mean, you guys in the trade, it's like if I said to you now, you're going to go do a plumbing job, but I'm only going to give you a hammer. You've got less.
I'll do a good job.
That's the job. The job is smashing it to pieces.
We call that a multi-tool in my trade.
Turn your 3-bedroom flat into a swimming pool.
Doing the different courses does give you different tricks that you can have in your toolbox to be able to sort of look at different situations and think, well, how can I do that? Because different projects that you look at lend themselves to different things. So whether that's service accommodation, whether it's a HMO, whether it's just a buy to let, it's going to be a different thing. And the more you know, the more knowledge you know, as we know, knowledge is power, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
can I throw something into the mix? Do you know what? One day we realised that you have to need a microphone to speak in. Sorry about that, Adam. Playing devil's advocate. Please don't take this the wrong way, and this is the whole idea of the podcast, is to be upfront and honest and discussion. Do you think sometimes, I mean, me personally, I've never had any training course or anything like that. I've done an apprenticeship, but do you think sometimes just learning off, especially organising this Milk and 2 Sugars podcast, is about learning, listening and seeing different things that necessarily don't need to go and have a training course to pay X amount of money to find an end goal, whereas you can learn, interact with new people, socialise, network and find other ways without actually paying for a certain service. Do you think that's the case, or do you think that's wrong? I mean, look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just
I think for myself, discussion. I mean, there's lots of networking events but networking events are networking events. Okay, you're not going to, you can learn from people from what they say and what they do. But I think the formal education, right? Okay, that where you actually take time to go out and you go out to learn. But I think it's the follow up with having a mentor to hold your hand. So if you've got a problem, you can pick up the phone and they're there at the other end to speak to you. Okay, because that's what you need. Right, so stop you making the mistakes. Okay, I always say, walk on the shoulders of giants. And if people have made those mistakes before and they've learned from them, you don't need to make that mistake. That education should stop you making that particular mistake. And I've got to say that my education, right, okay, for every penny that I've paid, okay, has more than amply paid off. Okay, so for example, if I'd have never gone to that course, I'd have never known what a SAS pension was. Right, okay. And that's earned me lots of monies over the last few years in terms of, it's paid for itself massively just from the interest I earn. And not only from the interest I earn, but how I've made that accumulate, into the money that I've earned from property. So, for me, it's paid, absolutely paid. So I can only endorse it. I know there's probably, people out there that have probably not benefited or been scammed or whatever, all I can say that my personal opinion is it's been very, very productive for me. And without it, I wouldn't have been where I am. And without my mentor, as in Kevin, I wouldn't have been where I was either, because I owe a lot to him in terms of how he's mentored me. And even like yesterday, I had a particular problem I come across. I text him. As soon as I text him, he phoned me straight back. And that's what you need. You need somebody who's going to be able to there to support you and help you, when you need them to. So yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think mentees and mentorship's completely different to courses. I completely endorse mentorship. So if you're starting off and you do want someone to hold your hand, as it were to be from the beginning, it's nice to have someone actually there after the course is finished to ring up and say, I've seen this deal, do you want to have a quick look over this? I think those are completely invaluable to have that type of sort of relationship with somebody, especially on the offset. Yeah. And as regards to training, like you say, you probably spoke to other people that thought the course that you did, which was rewarding and was beneficial to you, they didn't take anything from it. And that just comes back down to the individual and the action that you take. So you're obviously an action taker. So you've took the information, you've turned it into something that you can make money from, whereas other people have been to the course looking for an easy way to get to where they need to be. They've put no action in, and then they've got no reward.
And I think for me now, it's about legacy. Yeah. It's about the legacy I create. So the legacy for me is, allow my children to have a better future. So whatever I create now will be legacy for them. And then if I talk about go back to the SAS pension, it's a trust. It means also, and if of all the things I've talked about SAS helping you in the property journey, the biggest benefit is it's a trust. It means I can pass all my money in that trust to my children without them having to pay tax on it.
That's amazing.
Right, okay? Yeah. And also, there's ways and means of using that SAS pension, of all the money you make, there's a tax-free element of it as well. I don't want to go too much into the bit, but, you can put £40,000 a year from your profits into your pot. Yeah. Right? Tax-free. So, and if you're a husband and wife, well, that's 80,000.
Yeah, that's right? Amazing.
So there's real massive ways, and I know somebody who had a SAS pension a couple of years of maybe, I think about 200,000. In 4 or 5 years, they've made that up to $500,000, right? From the tax-free amounts that you can put into it. Yeah. So there's loads of benefits from doing it, and none of that would have happened for me if it hadn't been for my education in that. So whilst as I said to you, I've been a landlord for 17 years, but relatively new to doing projects. Okay, but I only want to do a project a year. I should remember that. I don't want to do lots and lots and lots. So yeah, and I'll do stuff
if
as I can.
If you could see behind the camera to our listeners what one of our previous guests is doing at the moment, you'll be very, very surprised. But no, you're right there, Joel. Listen, if it works for you, that's the most important thing in it every day, and that's the whole idea. It's your choice. Sorry, I've done it again. Sorry, Ed. And he's not even listening. He's got his headphones on. Listen to the Spotify playlist. No, at the same time, it's the valid point is that it works for you, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
You take it how you want to take it. So
just to coin what you said there, it is about taking action. Every single day you got to take action. One of the things I treat my business the same as I did when I was working. It's got to make money. How many people will have a personal development plan around their business? Okay, who sets targets in terms of what you want to deliver every single year? You've still got to do that when you're working for yourself. Okay, you've still got to have implement systems in place for making you run that business in a way which you would run your a corporate business. And I think for me, having run a corporate, worked in corporate environments where profit and loss was key and critical to any business. Okay, it should be no different from running your business now. Okay, you've got to run your own business and you've got to be making profit. For me, if you're not making profit, you're a busy fool.
Yeah,
right?
good point.
Yeah, they say profit. They say profit is sanity, sales is vanity, and it's the same in this business. If you're doing a build or a project and it's not making you money, don't do it. Walk away from it. Okay. Recently I spent a lot of money researching on a project. It wasn't going to deliver for me what I needed to deliver. There's some upfront costs for surveyors, this, that, and the other. I walked away from it. I walked away from it because it wasn't going to deliver the profit that I wanted to.
Sure.
So there's no point in doing that. And I say to anybody starting off, if you haven't got that business sense, get somebody who can give you that business sense and treat every single project as a profit and loss statement. Is it going to make you profit? Is it going to do you good? So
that's a very good point. A very good point. What was going to touch upon what we did speak about before is obviously the whole ethos and idea of how we created the Milk&2sugars show is obviously offering a platform for. We obviously had Nick the plumber in episode 2 that elaborated on how it is to be in the construction industry. We obviously had Ricky in episode 1 who's been both sides of the coin, so you can obviously see what he's done being in a carpet business, then obviously having a successful property business. So he's had both sides of the coin, but he still had that understanding of how things work in construction. What would be good for our listeners really is, could you give us an insight as being you are technically, as we look at it, a consumer or client. Obviously, me and Tom in construction backgrounds, we obviously know how it is to be, and we try and think about how our clients would like to see us as a construction professionals. But it'd be nice to hear from the horse's mouth in the vision for our listeners who are potential clients having projects being done or maybe buying a property for the first time. Could you give any understanding or any tips or ideas about how they would find a construction professional without going down the wrong avenues and being stung? I don't know if you've been stung before.
Yeah. I think you can call this a learning, okay? Because everything in life is a learning. So when I did my very first project, okay, I went on to, because I couldn't find a builder and I was impatient and I wanted to get my project off. Like, when you are like keen to get something done, you want it done tomorrow. It's as simple as that. You're sort of, I'd rather say, well, you want it done yesterday sort of thing, but, so I was really keen to get my project done. The builder that I wanted to use wasn't available.
It wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't you. Obviously, where I'm based, obviously. He wasn't available. He wasn't going to be available for a time. So I went to sort of, the normal sort of, checkertrade.com or mybuilder.com actually I went to.
Okay, is that was that there?
Mybuilder.com. Took the guys from there. Went and had a look at a couple of projects today. So I did do my due diligence and I did do, what's the name, but they didn't do a great job for me. Right, okay. And, there was difficulties along the way. And I think what helped me through that is what I talked about before. Being able to deal with people, I'd done many difficult situations in my corporate business, in the environment that I learned. So I knew how to get around some of the problems, how to deal with those particular people, okay. I think if it had been anybody else that was weaker, they'd have probably bowled them over. But there's just no way that they were going to get away with doing that with me. So, that was not a massively difficult problem, but I could have done without that. So, do your due diligence, absolutely key and important. And don't rush into it like I did. I was just too keen at the time.
Interesting. Tom?
Also, do you want to touch on, because I thought it was quite interesting, the National Landlords Purchasing Group?
Yeah, I'll talk about LMPG. When I did my first project, I come across LMPG. Yeah, and I think we, on a previous sort of, clubhouse, didn't we? We had Nick
yeah.
on there. And it's great for people that, want to use that benefit. I think it's, broadly speaking, I think depending on how many properties you've got, is the price you pay for the LMPG membership. But I more than made that money up from that particular membership. And for anybody starting out, like say, for example, with the HMO, I furnished it. So through the LMPG, I've got 10% discount on that. I think, my membership was about 300 quid. I saved about 600 quid straight away from just doing that. But also, buying boilers and carpets and flooring, you buy that through LMPG and the savings. If you don't make £300 worth of savings in that first year, okay, like that was the cost for me, they will roll you on for another year. So there's no loss in terms of, not doing it. But, paint, loads of things that they do. Right?
Kitchens, you can use magnet, I think it is.
Yeah, I use magnet kitchens on my last project. And again, got a great discount through LMPG on that particular one as well. But paints and loads of stuff that they particularly do. And the thing is, I think also gas boiler. I bought gas boiler, and I bought that gas boiler, and I think it was at least £300 cheaper than anybody else could get it. Even cheaper than what the guy that was going to be fitting it could get it for. So the LMPG group, I definitely would recommend to people out there. If you're doing that buying,
You heard it here first, guys. That LMPG.
Yeah. So check it out. It's definitely worth taking out, and I know I've definitely benefited from having it.
Well, that's based off what, one refurb a year or a couple of refurbs a year, and it's paid back already.
Definitely pays back. Yeah.
I mean, 10% off a kitchen at Magnet's going to pay for your membership, and then anything else is a bonus. So even if you're someone that's new in property and just doing one flip or buy to let, if you've got multiple properties going on a year and projects, then it's definitely something to look at. And I had the conversation with a clubhouse, I was amazed by that fact. I'd never heard of it before, and since then we've joined up. So
Have
really
you joined
good.
Since?
Yeah, we've joined.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's good, mate. We've been purchasing different things. I mean, we've got some projects coming up where we need kitchens and stuff, so we'll make our money on that. And there's a couple of boilers in a project that we've got to supply. So for me, it's paid for itself for probably 5 or 6 years membership already, just in the first year. So I won't endorse anything that I haven't used, and it don't genuinely work for the sake of it. We don't get paid off these. It's just it's a good sort of thing to be a part of as a landlord. And you was the reason that I heard about it in the first place on a clubhouse conversation. So thanks for that.
No, as I say, if there's something, I think we all learn off each other, don't we?
Yeah.
So if there's something good out there that you've learned off, it's important to kind of share that with other people, so they can too benefit from it.
I think that's what's interesting as well about property, that the people within property are more open to share information, especially online and social media. It's like a sort of, when you're in the club, you will sort of help everybody. There's no sort of with other trade, like especially within construction, you've got trades that snub off other people, and it's like there's us and then them. Whereas within property, what I have found now, my social media is solely property investors and like-minded people, is that they'll only push you further. So, I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and I didn't even realise you could do this. They were searching on properties that are going to become repossessed before they hit the market, and stuff like that I just wouldn't even have known, which is free information for me for them further my property journey. So, yeah.
Where do you see yourself in another 5 years' time? What is your...
For me, in the next 5 years, I'm just going to keep plodding on. Do you know what I mean? I think it's important for me to do so, because I think if you stand still, right, that's not a good place to be, right? Okay, so I'll keep moving forward in terms of the property world. I'll keep sticking at it. I think you need to have the right mindset. Mindset's really, really important in terms of the property market, because there'll be ups and downs, and your mindset will get you through those tough times. And I think in 5 years' time from now, the market will probably change, things will change. But as we see, in 5 years' time, technically speaking, lots of things change. Crypto comes, crypto goes, these sort of things. But property won't change. They say, even if you make a mistake in property, it's like a haircut, isn't it? They say, it'll go back, it'll be okay. Right, okay. So if you get a wrong haircut, it's going to come back. So I think in 5 years' time, I'm just going to keep, plodding on, doing things. And as I said to you, right at the beginning, if God gives you a gift, use it. Right? If I've got the gift to be able to do something, and help somebody else, like my own children, it's important to, carry on creating the legacy for them. And in the meantime, enjoy myself. I like my holidays. I like to get away when I can.
We have seen your pictures of you on holiday before, mate, with the mankini and all that.
No, you've never seen a picture of me in a mankini. Never.
We can make that happen on YouTube. Only if you subscribe, though, guys. Only if you subscribe.
The ball rat,
make that happen.
The ball rat in the bikini.
The SRT guys and the clear moving guys are good at editing, aren't you, chaps? Aren't you? So that's it. There we go.
Don't do that.
Well, listen, once again, Joel, thank you
No,
very,
it's been
very
a
much for
pleasure.
joining me and Tom. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you.